while the mayor of Moscow says there have been more than 800 Ukrainian drones targeting the Russian capital overnight. Both countries are now striking deeper into the other's territory.
Hold on. Look at this. A contract. 12 pages, standard legal language, updated quietly on a Tuesday in July. Nobody read it. Nobody reported it. It changed one paragraph. The part about what happens if a warehouse is destroyed by a drone. 11 days later, the first drone arrived. And then, on August 16th, 25 miles from the Kremlin, the largest warehouse in Russia burned for 6 hours. And because of 12 pages that nobody read, 400,000 people will never see a ruble of it back. This is the story of how a fire destroyed a building, and a document destroyed everything inside it. Start with the thing everyone saw. Overnight, into August 16th, Moscow's mayor said roughly 600 drones flew toward the capital, with 201 destroyed over the region. Russia's defense ministry claimed 822 shot down nationwide, without saying how many got through. 2 logistics centers burned in the Moscow region that morning. The larger one sits in the Kolodino Industrial Park in Podolsk. 250,000 square meters, 13,000 people employed there. That is 40 football fields under one roof, and it is the biggest warehouse Wildberries owns. Now, if you are outside Russia, the name Wildberries probably means nothing to you. So, here is the scale. Wildberries is Russia's Amazon, and that comparison undersells it. Together with its rival Ozone, it moves goods and services worth 8.5% of Russia's entire economy and employs around 4 million people, more than 5% of the workforce. It runs roughly 98,000 pickup points across a country spanning 11 time zones. In a Russian town of 4,000 people, there is no mall, there is no department store. There is a Wildberries pickup point, and that is the retail economy. 25 miles. That is the part that matters. For 4 years, Vladimir Putin has sold this war to his own population as a special operation happening somewhere else, on a map, to somebody else. Last night, the smoke from that building was visible across the capital. The country's largest retail network went down inside Moscow's own region, and every Russian with a phone watched it burn on Telegram before breakfast. And Putin has said nothing. Not about the fire, not about the 20 other buildings before it, and not one word about the 400,000 people who had everything they owned inside them. Hold on to that silence, because it becomes the entire story. Because this has been happening for a month. The strikes began on July 18th. Reuters counted at least 7 Wildberries warehouses damaged within days. The Associated Press put it at more than a dozen by early August. Tambov, Krasnodar, Stavropol, Ryazan, Leningrad, the Vladimir region, Tver, Sverdlovsk. By August 7th, before last night, 20 facilities and more than 1.18 million square meters were already offline. Over 1/5 of the company's entire capacity, gone in 3 weeks. Ukraine's argument is that these are not civilian buildings. Kyiv says the warehouses move drone components and sanctioned parts for the Russian military, because commercial logistics is the only cheap way to move that volume at that speed. Wildberries denies it. The Kremlin denies it. There is one number that cuts in Ukraine's favor. Sales in the quadcopter accessories category on the platform, worth 118 million rubles from May to July, fell 36% after the strikes began. And there is a human cost that Moscow has not been loud about either. 7 night shift workers were killed at the Kotovsk warehouse. Another person died after the strike on Electrostal. More than 80 were injured. By the end of July, at least 9 people were dead, most of them Wildberries employees. That is the fire. That is what every channel is covering today. And it is the least important thing that happened to these people. Because 11 days before the first drone ever flew, somebody in Moscow had already decided who was going to pay for all of it. To understand what happened on that Tuesday, you have to understand who signed it. Tatiana Kim was an English teacher. She started Wildberries from home in 2004 while on maternity leave, ordering clothes from a catalog and reselling them because she wanted something that was hers. 20 years later, she is the richest woman in Russia, worth billions. That story is the reason the platform worked, because it is also, almost exactly, the biography of the people who sell on it. A woman at a kitchen table with a phone and some inventory, and no employees. Kim built the ladder she had climbed, and hundreds of thousands of Russians climbed it behind her. Now go back to June. A Ukrainian drone attack on Moscow set a major oil refinery on fire. On the same day, Wildberries evacuated one of its Moscow region warehouses after videos showed smoke coming off the building following a suspected drone strike. The company never said what caused the smoke. Remember that, because it is the last normal week in this story. On July 7th, Wildberries updated its standard seller agreement. The new terms removed the company's financial liability for goods lost under force majeure, and this version spelled out exactly what that covered: artillery fire, drone attacks, missile strikes, political protests, strikes, riots. Previous versions had never defined force majeure in anything like that detail. 11 days later, the drones came. Let me be precise, because the easy version of this is wrong. Nobody has shown that Wildberries knew Ukraine's target list. They almost certainly did not. What they did was read the news in June, correctly conclude their warehouses were next, and move to protect themselves. That is not a conspiracy. That is a competent company doing what competent companies do. The problem is what came after, which is that they said nothing. Between July 7th and July 18th, Wildberries kept accepting inventory from hundreds of thousands of sellers. It did not warn them. It did not tell them the terms had changed. It did not suggest they insure anything. And they were not insured. Insurance industry sources estimated that only 5 to 7% of Wildberries merchants carried a policy at all, and of that small group, only 10 to 20% had coverage for military damage. Run that math. Out of every 100 sellers, roughly one had insurance that would actually pay out on a drone strike. Call it what it is: the transfer. In 11 days, the risk of a war moved off a company worth billions and onto 400,000 people who did not know it had moved, and could not have covered it if they did. And here is the thing nobody in this story once asked out loud. Kim has called the strikes terrorist attacks, and said that attacks on Wildberries' infrastructure are attacks on civilians. Ukraine says the buildings were feeding the Russian military. Both of those cannot be true. So, take either one. If the warehouses were purely civilian, then Kim is a victim of terrorism, who abandoned 400,000 of her own people the moment the bill came due. And if Ukraine is right, then she was running war logistics through buildings packed with the uninsured inventory of small business owners who were never told they were sitting inside a target. There is no version of this where those sellers were treated fairly. There is only a question of what exactly they were being used for. If this is the kind of story you want more of, the machinery underneath the headline instead of the footage on top of it, subscribe now. Because what she said next, on camera, is the part most people still have not heard. On July 22nd, 4 days after the first strikes, Kim announced compensation. Sellers hit at Electrostal would be paid within 24 hours. The company would prioritize the smallest and least protected entrepreneurs, more than 88,000 of them. There would be a sales simulator, paying people out gradually, as if their burned goods were still selling off the shelf. Within hours, sellers were saying it covered almost nothing. By late July, the company reported paying out more than 40 million rubles, against losses that would eventually be measured in the hundreds of billions. Then, on July 31st, she recorded a video statement. She called the strikes terrorist attacks. She said they constituted force majeure, and then she said this: whether or not that clause appears in the offer agreements is immaterial, because under law, these losses are not subject to compensation. Immaterial. She wrote the clause on the 7th. 24 days later, she told 400,000 ruined people that the clause did not even matter, because they were never getting paid either way. And then she told them that the internet had filled with fraudsters and lawyers looking to profit from their misfortune, and asked them to trust only the company and the state. The richest woman in Russia, telling the people she had just written out of her contract not to speak to a lawyer. And she was not alone. In roughly the same weeks, Ozone, Yandex Market, and Mega Market all updated their own seller terms in the same direction, moving war risk onto sellers. Every major marketplace in Russia ran the same calculation at the same time, and not one of them told anybody. This was never one company being cynical. This was an entire sector quietly pricing in a war that its own merchants were never warned about. Here is what the damage actually looks like. Analysts at Data Insight put Wildberries' own infrastructure losses at up to 278 billion rubles once demolition and clearance are counted. Sellers lost goods worth another 445 to 507 billion, around 800 billion rubles in total, roughly $9.5 billion. Russia's own association of e-commerce suppliers puts the seller side higher, and on their numbers, the combined figure approaches 1 trillion rubles, close to $12 billion. That same association says more than 400,000 sellers have been affected, and that many lost up to 95% of their stock. 95% means a woman who put a year of savings into inventory has one shelf left. And it is spreading past the fires. Wildberries' sales fell 20 to 40% after the strikes. Advertising spend on the platform dropped 63% from June to July because there was nothing left to advertise. Prices across Russian marketplaces are up 10 to 30%. Sellers are walking away. Which brings us back to the man who has not spoken. Russian businesses have warned the Kremlin directly that mass bankruptcies among these sellers would cut the tax revenue flowing into the federal budget. Russia is already running a deficit of 5.73 trillion rubles in the first half of this year alone, with military spending taking a major share. On July 21st, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov called the situation difficult, said the government was working on the issue, and said it was in contact with the company. He did not say whether anyone would be compensated. That was 3.5 weeks ago. 20 more buildings have burned since. There has still been no answer. And Putin himself has said nothing at all. He has two options, and he does not like either one. Bail out 400,000 ruined businesses with money he does not have, and admit the war has reached the kitchen tables of Moscow, or let them fail and lose the tax base they were generating in an economy that has already lost 2.5 million workers since 2022 and will lose another 1.4 million this year. And so far his answer has been to say nothing and hope they stop asking. 12 pages. Updated on a Tuesday. Nobody read it. The clause was legal. It was ordinary. Every marketplace in Russia wrote one, and a Western company facing the same risk would have written it too. Nobody broke a law here, but somewhere between July 7th and July 18th, 400,000 people stopped being partners and became counterparties, and not one of them was told. The fire took a building that can be rebuilt in 18 months. The document took everything on the shelves and decided in advance that nobody was going to pay for it. So the question is, who does? Does Putin bail out 400,000 sellers he cannot afford to save? Or does he let the part of the economy he needed most go under and keep saying nothing while it happens? Russia has absorbed sanctions. It has absorbed mobilization. It has absorbed strikes on its refineries and kept going. Whether it absorbs this one is a different question, because this is the first time the bill landed on the people who were told the war would never reach them. What do you think? Does Moscow pay? Or does it let them burn twice? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe, because we are watching what the Kremlin does next.